Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Fen Talks podcast. On today's episode, we're featuring one of Fennemore's labor and employment attorneys, as well as the chair of our Diversity and Inclusion Council, Travis Pacheco. I'm sure there's probably a couple individuals that are tuning into today's episode. They may know your name. They may have seen some of the diversity and inclusion initiatives that the firm is actively working on. But those that haven't had the opportunity to meet you or read your bio, would you mind just doing a high-level overview about yourself and your background?
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm a labor and employment attorney at Fennemore Craig in the Phoenix office. So, we represent mostly employers, HR professionals, company management. I help them on a day-to-day basis, navigate them through the federal and state employment laws, draft and enforce a variety of employment agreements. We defend employers against claims of discrimination and harassment. So those are the basic things that I do on the labor and employment side. On the diversity side, I'm, like you said, chair of the council. And so the council's made up of attorneys and staff of our firm. We have a large council of 60 members and get together quarterly and have events and activities in between.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed sitting on that council with you. It's been a lot of fun. And that's part of the culture at Fennemore, right? We're all about getting involved, getting our hands dirty, doing the work, whether that's out there in the business community or also within our own organization. So would love to get your perspective and just hear, a little bit more about your story. What inspired you personally to get involved with the Diversity and Inclusion Council and to take on that bigger role as the chair?
Yeah, so I was asked to be chair of the council. I think it was in January of 2020, and I gladly accepted. The position became open, and I jumped at the opportunity. And the reason why is, look, I have a background in leading diverse groups. I was the president of the Latino Law Student Association at the U of A. We did a lot of great things while in law school, and then also after law school, when I became a lawyer, I'm involved as a member, and I was a board member for several years for the Los Abogados Hispanic Bar Association. I worked on programs of promoting diversity on the bench for the judiciary. Worked with minority bar organizations, sister minority bar organizations on collaboration on networking, networking events, those type of things. I love doing that. I love working with students from high school through college to law school, diverse students on seeking ways to promote diversity in the legal profession. So I found that this was a good opportunity for me personally, but also to help Fennemore with its good work in promoting diversity and inclusion within the firm and outside of the firm.
I know our team is just thankful to have someone with your background and all of your experiences leading our initiatives. So I know a lot of businesses are talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unfortunately, it's taken a lot of companies up until the last year to actually start having these conversations. Fennemore, on the other hand, has had our council for a number of years, but I know that we're looking to make an even bigger impact and make even bigger strides. So for those organizations, Travis, I would like to pick your brain. What advice do you have for them as they're looking to start these conversations that surround diversity, equity, and inclusion?
That's a good question. I think the best thing is to be proactive. Don't wait around for employees or staff members to come to you if you're a company manager or an owner and say, what is our business doing with respect to diversity matters? We see all these other businesses promoting diversity and diversifying their workforces. What are we doing? You don't want to wait for that. So as a business owner or manager, I would suggest that you first educate yourself on diversity related issues. The topics, the trends that are going on. What are ways that we could diversify our workforce, that we can promote inclusion in our workforce for everyone, and then start building upon that. So that's the first thing. And then don't be afraid of having uncomfortable conversations. I mean, if this is new to you as a business owner or manager in diversity and you don't feel comfortable, there's so many consultants, there's so many third parties that companies can work with that can actually lead those conversations with employees, have town halls, have meetings, have series of webinars and things like that can help take that uncomfortable conversation and help guide you through it so that you're more prepared to have those when and if the time comes.
Now, putting together a council and getting groups of individuals from the internal organization together, it's more than hosting a lunch or a Zoom session. There are some, strategic initiatives that are underway. And so I think it might be helpful for some other business owners and leaders to hear some of our key initiatives and what we're looking to accomplish in hopes that that will inspire them. So would you mind just sharing a little bit more about some of the key initiatives that are underway?
Sure. So we as a council, we believe it's more important, action's more important than just getting together, like you said, every quarter and discussing things and then never doing anything, right? So we've created a strategic plan. It's a three-pronged approach, right? And the first, it's three areas. The first area is recruitment and retention of diverse attorneys and staff. The second is actively participating in pipeline programs. Work with students, like I said, high school, college, law students that promote future legal careers in the law. And then finally, integrating social networks within our firm and within our communities. And so that's the three main areas that we focus on. And then we implement programs and practices that align with that strategic plan. We've created 6 working groups. They're like focus groups that they're each working on some of those initiatives. For instance, we have a working group working on recruitment and retention. We have a working group working on education and training within the firm. And so I think in order to get more done and be more efficient, that's kind of the plan that we have used. It's an evolving plan. We can do, we have more work to be done and we can always improve. But so far, it is assisting in speeding up the diversity efforts in our firm.
So we've talked about the working groups, and there are a lot of key initiatives underway. So of all of them that you had mentioned, and I know there's several others that you didn't even mention, of those, what one are you most passionate about to personally work on?
Well, so I think that as far as the initiatives, that kind of the three main areas, I love working on the pipeline programs. I mean, I'm a big believer in mentorship and helping students. And so I always get great enjoyment at programs that we can work and collaborate with high school students, college students, law students. And we established a program a couple of years ago we partner with the Be a Leader Foundation. It's a local nonprofit organization here in Phoenix, where we have a group of high school students come into our firm and spend a day with us and spend a day with the attorneys, get to know other staff-related positions in a law firm, spend time with our firm leadership to understand the importance of running a law firm and the operations. It's been a great program. So anytime we have opportunities to work with students, I'm really passionate about. And secondly, the education and training aspect. I'm in that working group of our diversity council. And anytime that we can increase education about diversity-related matters is a good thing. And that helps build policies and practices that align and help promote diversity.
Absolutely. Well, I personally am just as passionate about those key initiatives myself. So speaking of our passions, one thing that I'm personally passionate about is finding excuses to celebrate. There are a lot of great things to celebrate in life. And we look at a lot of national holidays. We recognize a lot of different, key dates on our social media platforms that relate to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We do have one holiday coming up. It kind of relates to some of our D&I efforts. It's National Book Lovers Day. So that's happening on August 9th. So with that, it just reminded me of some of the great work that the Diversity and Inclusion Council is doing and the launch of our book club here in 2021. So Travis, would you mind just sharing a little bit more about some of the books that our team, they're reading and what that looks like?
Yeah, so one of the working groups established a book club and just a couple of months ago, and it already has 30 members of our firm, approximately 30 members of our firm that regularly attend meetings, that are reading books. It's pretty neat. So they have their diversity related topics or maybe by diverse authors. And the goal is to read one book a month. And then the group gets together twice a month to discuss the book. So we're very excited about it. And I want to point out that it's especially important now that a lot of us are still remote and not working day to day in person with folks. It's a great opportunity for firm members to connect, to meet regularly. During the pandemic, it's been very helpful. So the first book they read was called The Color of Water by James McBride. And then up in July, looks like the book is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neil Hurston. And then in August, they have the book Woman of Troublesome Creek by Kim Michelle Richardson. So they're reading one book per month, getting together, talking about it. And I think it's been a great effort and a great collaboration so far.
I completely agree. So if anybody's looking for the must-read list, make sure you reach out. We're happy to share some of the books that our firm is reading as a whole. So with that, I mean, Travis, we talked about a number of things that relate to our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. But I know as a labor and employment attorney, some of these conversations come up with your clients. So as you put on that hat and are out there in the community, is there anything that's coming up top of mind or key topics of conversation that relate to diversity, equity, and inclusion with your clients?
Yeah, for the most part, it's been positive. It's been employers trying to diversify their workforces, maybe looking at their job descriptions and saying, look, are there ways that we can increase our candidate pool to have diverse, more diverse candidate pool? I mean, are there absolute requirements that we need? I mean, do we need a master's for this job? Those type of things. They're taking a look intrinsically and seeing what, items that they can do to promote diversity. Now, on the other hand, employers have to be careful not to make hiring decisions or employment decisions based on race or any other protected category in violation of Title VII. So they kind of have to walk a fine balance there. Increasing it and making sure you have a diverse candidate pool is not the same as hiring or making a employment decision based exclusively on race, which would be unlawful under Title VII. So I think that's kind of the challenge for employers to make sure that they're promoting diversity, but not overstepping the line and having a legal violation. So employers, you see a lot of big companies and smaller companies even having town halls and discussions with employees regarding diversity initiatives, and those are fine. So, but if I'm wearing my employment law hat, you want to make sure that the person leading those discussions is experienced, is able to pivot when necessary, and also keep an eye out for times where an employee raises a work-related incident, a specific one, or talking about coworkers. That's not the time to do it in those town halls. There's got to be a clear avenue for them to be able to bring those type of complaints where it's discrimination or harassment or hostile work environment complaints to HR and make sure that it's clearly established at the outset of any of those type of meetings. And that those employees are well aware about that process in the company's policy and reporting discrimination in the workplace.
So Travis, for those individuals that are, you sparked their attention and they're like, oh, you know what, maybe I should probably talk to somebody about this. So for those individuals that could use a little extra help or guidance as it relates to some of their labor and employment initiatives, do you have a good source of contact information, or what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
So, yeah, I mean, I'm you can go to the Fennemore Craig website. I'm on there. I'm on LinkedIn as well. But I would say for employers, I mean, one easy thing you can do is make sure that you're having like an anti-discrimination, anti-harassment training each year. I do those trainings. Other labor and employment colleagues of mine at the firm do those trainings, and other labor and employment at other firms do them as well. So it doesn't really matter who's doing it, but make sure that you're having at least a regular training, whether it's once a year, once every 2 years. It's important for both employees at the lower level and also supervisors are getting trained on proper, reporting procedures and what is and what is not discrimination, harassment. Also the policies, company policies need to be reviewed and revised to make sure they're in compliance. And then, switching gears on the diversity and inclusion, with that hat on, I can serve as a resource too. I'm happy to speak with individuals too about what has worked for us, what hasn't worked for us, and I'm glad to share my thoughts on promoting diversity in the workplace.
Now, you had mentioned recruitment earlier, right? We're always looking to recruit some top talent to our firm and building out a more diverse firm as a whole. So for those individuals or candidates that are interested in potentially exploring some career opportunities with the firm, what would you have to share with them as it relates to getting involved with some of our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives?
For candidates, you're talking about candidates that are interested in working at Fennemore?
Correct. Some laterals.
Yeah. I mean, once they join the firm, and we have, the Diversity Council that that I would suggest that they join. I mean, it's a great group. We meet on a regular basis, quarterly, and then also, in between our working groups are meeting at least monthly. It's been a challenging experience. It's been a very fun experience. It allows firm members to work together, even if you're working remotely, to collaborate on initiatives outside of the regular legal daily grind of legal work. So it's been for me, and I know for a lot of our council members, it's been a really rewarding experience. It feels like we're moving the needle and making improvements within the firm.
Wonderful. Well, as we look to wrap up today's conversation, is there anything else that you'd like to leave our audience with?
I've talked kind of about it. I think I'm just going to reiterate for folks: be proactive about diversity and inclusion efforts. Educate yourself I'm continuing to learn all the time. I mean, as chair, I don't know everything about diversity related topics. I'm being educated by the members of our council. I continue to read articles. I would suggest the same for business owners. That even if you think you know a lot about diversity related topics, there's always more to learn. And the more you are aware of topics, the better you can help evaluate and address issues in the workplace. So and to promote diversity and inclusion.
Travis, well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us for today's conversation as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion at Fennemore.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.